fighter, angry, bitter, abusive. I was all these things and more. And God had to change my heart. You with me? God had to change my heart. And you know, when I got saved 32 years ago, when I got saved, I'm telling you, my wife knew the difference. She knew me. And she said, I threw my love for you in the trash can, and I felt that. I really did feel that. She don't love me no more. But when God changed my life and God got a hold of us, God put a love back there that no man or no woman can put back in themselves. God changed her heart towards me as well. Amen? And he did a mighty, mighty work in our lives. And he began, and listen, this is not like an instant potato kind of thing. This is a process. But it's not an excuse for you to keep sinning.
Right.
Amen, Pastor. This is a process. But it's not an excuse for you to keep sinning. Keep doing wrong because you know, well, God will forgive me anyway. I'm sorry, with that kind of heart and that kind of attitude, you may end up in the HE double hockey sticks saying, well, what happened? I don't understand. Because, and you'll see tonight how everything revolves around, if you love God and if he has your heart, you're going to obey his word. You're going to obey the word of God. And not, you know what I mean? Not that we don't obey our pastors, not that we don't obey our husbands or our parents or our bosses or anything like that. You know what I mean? But if you're a Christian, you're going to live according to this book. And you're going to learn. And some of you may learn the hard way, like I had to learn in many cases, but you're going to learn. You with me? And you know what I mean? And God is his ultimate thing is to change our hearts. To make us more like him. Amen? To put his heart inside of us and everything that we do. Because remember we read today, what was it? Proverbs 4:23? Yeah. It said, above all else, above everything else in your life you do, guard your heart. Yeah. Because out of it flows the issues of life. Yeah. Because everything you do and your success depends on what's coming out of your heart. Right, amen. You with me? And if God has your heart and you're in that book and you're in this word, listen, he is your healer. He is your provider. Come on. He's your savior. He's your redeemer. He's your protector. He's your provider. You know what I mean? And God is all these things to you. You with me? Amen? But you guard your heart. You protect your heart because the devil is out to kill, steal, and destroy. And he wants you more than anything. And tonight we're going to look at the example. I entitled it the Rise and Fall of King Saul. Because King Saul was a man of God. And King Saul lost everything because of his disobedience to the Lord and his heart attitude towards God. 1 Samuel chapter 10, verse number 1 through 11. It said, then Samuel took a flask of oil, or of olive oil, and he poured it on Saul's head. Now at this time Saul was already being anointed as king. But we'll read on and it'll kind of backtrack and give us a little bit of history on this. But this is where Saul was anointed by Samuel the prophet. You guys remember Samuel? The little boy that was left at the church? And his mother was Hannah, who couldn't bear children and ended up bearing a child and then took him to the house of God and gave him to the Lord for the rest of his life. And Samuel became one of the greatest prophets that ever lived. And Samuel came and anointed King Saul. But let's look at it and see. Let's look at some history of it. It says, he anointed King Saul's head and he kissed him, saying, has not the Lord anointed you ruler over his inheritance? He says, when you leave me today, you will meet two men near Rachel's tomb at Zelzah on the border of Benjamin. He said, they will say to you, the donkeys that you set out to look for have been found. And now your father has stopped thinking about them and is worried about you. So Saul was in search of donkeys that had run away from him, and so he went out looking for him, and he couldn't find him. And so this whole kind of thing revolves around these missing donkeys. And so now his father's worried about him. It says that he is asking, what shall I do about my son? His son was lost. Then you will go on from there until you reach the great tree of Tobar. He says, three men going up to worship God at Bethel will meet you there. One will be carrying 3 young goats, another 3 loaves of bread, and another a skin of wine. He said, they will greet you and offer you 2 loaves of bread, which you will accept from them. After that, you will go to Gibeah. He said, Gibeah of God. He said, where there is a Philistine outpost. As you approach the town, you will meet a procession of prophets. In other words, you're going to meet a bunch of pastors there, coming down from the high place with the lyres, timbrels, pipes, and harps being played. In other words, these guys were coming down. There was like a walking band of prophets, of men of God that were worshiping the Lord as they walked. He said they're being played before them, and they will be prophesying. They're going to be preaching. They're going to be prophesying. He said the Spirit of the Lord will come powerfully upon you, and you will prophesy with them, and you will be changed into a different person. Isn't that our whole goal? Yeah. And if any man be in Christ, he's a new creation. The old is gone, the new has come. Yeah. He said when the Spirit of God comes upon you, you're going to be changed into a new person. He says once these signs are fulfilled, he says, do whatever your heart finds to do. Amen. Man, we could learn a lot from just that sentence right there. Do whatever your heart finds, or your hand finds to do. In other words, wherever they need help, help. Amen. You with me? Amen. He says, for God is with you. Amen. Go down ahead of me to Gilgal. I will surely come down to you to sacrifice burnt offerings and fellowship offerings. He says, but you must wait 7 days until I come to you and tell you what you are to do. And so as Saul turned, watch this. This is what I was telling you this morning. As Saul turned to leave Samuel, God changed Saul's heart. Amen. God changed Saul's heart. And all these signs were fulfilled that day. Amen. Now this is the good part. He said when he and his servants arrived at Gilgal, a procession of prophets met him. And the Spirit of God came powerfully upon him. Didn't we just hear this a minute ago? Yeah. God said it, now God fulfills it here. He said the Spirit of God came upon him powerfully. Has the Spirit of God ever came upon you powerfully? Yeah. He said upon him, and he joined in their prophesying. Not the prophesying. Yeah. They're prophesying. He began to preach. And when all those who had formerly known him, all your homies used to know you? Yeah. All your homegirls used to know you? Yeah. Come on, all the barflies that used to know you? Yeah. Are you here tonight? Yeah. Is this thing on tonight? Yeah. They formerly knew him, saw him prophesying with the prophets. And they asked each other, because you know they ain't got no sense. So they started asking each other, what is this that has happened to the son of Kish? Is Saul also among the prophets? Is Vince Diaz now a preacher too? Or put your name there. Oh, now you're a Christian too? Now you're a prophet? Now you're witnessing to me? Huh? It freaked them out. Amen? And let me see where I'm jumping here. I'm jumping down a little bit to verse 17. Because it doesn't end there. Oh, let me see. All right, verse 17. Samuel summoned the people of Israel. Now this is where Samuel is going to tell the people of Israel what has happened to Saul and that he's their king. So Saul calls all the people of Israel, and the people don't know yet. The people were asking for a king, and so they don't even know who's the king. And back in those days, they would choose them by clans and by families and by homes, and then they would finally get down to the one that was chosen. These people wanted a king, and I'll show you what I'm talking about here. But this is about where Saul hides himself. Big old, tall, strong man. He went and hid. He hid from the people and from the presence of the Lord. Look, it says Samuel summoned the people of Israel to the Lord at Mizpah and said to them, "This is what the Lord, the God of Israel, says. I brought Israel up out of Egypt, and I brought people up, and I delivered you from the power of Egypt and all the kingdoms that oppressed you." Amen? God's talking to the people, and he's telling them that. He says, "But you have now rejected your God, who saved you out of all your disasters and calamities. And you have said, 'No, appoint a king over us.'" See, they didn't want God ruling over them. Like some Christians don't want God ruling over them. They say, you know what, I'd rather be under the bondage. I'd rather be under the slavery of somebody else trying to tell me. Remember the people of Israel? They said, "God, we don't want to talk to you. We'll listen to Moses now." After God scared the hell out of them. Come on. Some of you say, "Well, I talked to the Lord, and I was with the Lord, and the Lord," you know what I mean? If the Lord showed up, he'd freak you out. He'd scare the hell out of you. You wouldn't want to talk to him. You'd be like, "No, Pastor, please, you tell me what to do and I'll do it." Right. These people said, "We don't want you over us no more. We want a king over us. We want a man. We want flesh over us. We don't want God himself over us." And God said, "You rejected me. But but you have now rejected your God, who saved you out of all your disasters and calamities, and you have said, 'No, appoint a king over us.' So now present yourselves before the Lord, your tribe and your clans, all your people, everybody come," he said. He said, and when Samuel had all Israel come forward by tribes, they first came by tribes. Then the tribe of Benjamin was picked, or was taken by lot. In other words, they would pick lots. They would take, you know how have you ever seen people like take a bunch of sticks, and then they put a short one in there? Yeah. And then you pull, and you pull, and you pull, and somebody gets a short stick. That's kind of what they did. And that's the way God would use things back then. And when they did that, the tribe of Benjamin was taken, which, can I tell you, was the least of the clans. In other words, it was the weakest. You with me? Yeah. Finally, Benjamin, clan by clan, and Matri's clan was taken. I thought at first I said Marty's. Marty sounds better than Matri's. His clan was taken. In other words, his clan was chosen. Finally, Saul, son of Kish, was taken. In other words, Saul was the one that finally, the last little lot was of Saul, that Saul was to be king. But when they looked for him, he was not to be found. So they inquired further of the Lord. Can I tell you something? They're not asking people. They're talking to God and saying, hey, where's Saul at? They didn't ask everybody. They asked the Lord. Could you imagine if we were like that? We stopped asking everybody for their opinions and what they thought and all this, and we got on our knees and actually prayed and asked God what he wanted. Let me see. He wasn't anywhere to be found, so they inquired further of the Lord. This is what the Lord said. Or they asked him, has the man come here yet? And the Lord said, yes, he has hidden himself among the supplies. You know God knows everything about you. You know if we shut these lights off, no matter what you do, God knows everything you do. You with me? You lie, if you cheat, if you steal, come on. No matter what you do, God knows everything. He knows where you're at all times. Come on now. How many of you have ever been somewhere you're not supposed to be? You know God knew exactly where you were? You didn't lie to God. You might have fooled me. Come on. Pastor Viz may never have known what you've done. But you'll never fool God. He always knows where you're at all times, exactly what you're doing. That's why it's important to guard our hearts, right?
That's right.
He's hidden himself among the supplies. It says, they ran and they brought him out of the supplies. They found him. And as he stood among the people, he was a head taller than any of the others. Amen? In other words, like say if I'm here and I'm the average size guy, height, he would be this tall. His head size would be taller. So he was about a foot taller than everybody else. Amen? It was a head taller than anyone or any of the others. Samuel said to the people, Do you see this man the Lord has chosen? God had chosen Saul to be their king out of all them people. There is no one like him among all the people. Then the people shouted, Long live the king! Long live the king! Could you imagine, bro, the way God felt at that moment? They don't want me. You with me? Listen, I don't know, and this is the only thing I'm coming up with right now. But could you imagine saying, God is not enough? I need a man to satisfy me. I need a woman to satisfy me. I'm not content with where I'm at right now in my life, but if I only had a man, man, I'll tell you what, man, because he'd be my answer. He'd help me. Come on. Huh? You know what you're saying? You're not enough, huh? And I promise you, you might not say that out of your mouth, but you don't have to because your heart has said that. You're not enough. You don't satisfy me, God. Huh? You don't satisfy me. I need a man to satisfy me. I need a woman to satisfy me. Come on, somebody.
Right, amen.
You with me? These people say, God, we don't want you. We want a king. Could you imagine the way God felt? Some of you don't even understand that because all you think about is the way you feel. Amen, Pastor. All you think about is your feelings and your emotions, and so-and-so said something, and somebody didn't treat you right, and I'm hurt, and my feelings, and I'm offended, and you walk like that, like a little baby, and you don't take into consideration anybody else but yourself. Not even God himself you don't take into consideration. Could you imagine God walking away from that? Long live the king! Long live the king! And he says, you rejected me. I'm not enough for you? Man, it's quiet up in this Presbyterian church. Huh? You're not enough, God. We want to celebrate our new. Oh, Lord Jesus, help us, man. We're talking about a heart here. I'm trying to show you through this guy's example. You with me? The way we are. Huh? Because sometimes I'll preach at you and you think I'm just talking to you, so I'm giving you examples here of a man's heart that was changed, a man's heart that was saved, a man's heart that started serving the Lord and following Christ, and how even in that mist, he never, you know what I mean? It's not that he wasn't changed, it's that he wasn't staying changed. You have to continue in the Word of God. Come on, somebody. You have to stay in that book, and you have to understand God disciplines those He loves. He'll correct you. He'll discipline you. He'll straighten you out because He loves you.
Right.
And the problem with us is we think, I'm all right the way I am. Who do you think you are to try and change me? And when you say that of your pastors, remember they told Moses, they said, hey, Moses, they're not fighting against you. They're fighting against God. Moses was just their leader. You know what they did to him? They picked up rocks and they hit him with rocks. Huh? And you know when they hit him with rocks, the earth swallowed him up. The earth opened its mouth and swallowed a bunch of people straight to hell for what they did but to their pastor, because it wasn't them they were fighting against. It was God. And God's still trying to change you.
Right. Right.
You ain't perfect, I ain't perfect. God's still changing me 32 years later. But it's become a lot easier. The more you obey, the easier it is. I asked, I'm not going to mention no names, but somebody recently gave up chocolate. And I thought, man, that's amazing. Because I love chocolate. And I said, do you crave it? And they said, no, not no more. Liars. I'm going to bring a big old chocolate bar in front of them. I'm going to buy them nothing but chocolates for Christmas. And I said, no, but you know, the more you don't eat it, the less you want it. It's just like anything else. You with me? The less you have it, the less you're there. And you know what I mean? If you stop drinking pop and just started drinking water, you know, after a while, and somebody did that too. They said that too. I think they quit pop too. And they said, you know what? I tasted a pop the other day and it tasted so gross. Nothing but sugar. And why? Because they've already got accustomed to water, which is better for you. You with me? But the less you have pop, the less you have chocolate, the less you crave it. The less you have sin. You with me? If your heart is really saved. Remember today I talked about the prodigal pig? You can wash them, bathe them, paint their nails, bubble bath them, put them ribbons and a little dress. But if their heart's still a pig, they'll always be, you open that window, you open that door, I'm out of here. Like a convict ready to get out of prison, willing to break them walls or do whatever they could to get out. Their heart has never changed. But when God changes your heart, you with me? You're willing to give stuff up. But the thing is that you got to continue to be willing. Amen? You got to continue to be willing to say, you know what did the song we sing today, this world ain't got nothing for me or something? Huh? Yeah, but it said the world don't have nothing for me or something like that. Huh? And you know what I mean? And it's like, you know, that world out there has jacked you up. And then isn't it funny that after a while in church, you start like, man, they're going out, they're having some beers and some fun. They're going here, they're doing that, and you're hearing about the parties and the laughter, and who threw up, and who got, you with me? And who hooked up. And you're thinking, gee, I wish I could throw up.
Come on now. Come on.
After I've hooked up, and after I drank up, and after I had a blast, I had to go to prayer.
Come on.
Huh? Let's look at this Samuel, 1 Samuel, just a few chapters over, verse 13. 1 Samuel chapter 13. Verses 8 through 14. Tell me when you're there.
Amen.
Where's Sister Cindy at?
She's in the bathroom.
Oh. Who? Who said that? Jen, would you read for me?
Yeah.
1 Samuel 13, verse 8 through 14. Could you read real loud?
He waited 7 days, the time appointed by Saul. But Samuel did not come to Gilgal, and the people began to slip away from Saul. So Saul said, "Bring the burnt offering here to me, and the offering of wild beans." And he offered burnt offerings. As soon as he had finished offering the burnt offering, Samuel arrived, and Saul went out to meet him and saluted him. Samuel said, "What have you done?" Saul replied, "When I saw the people were slipping away from me, and that you did not come within the days appointed, and that the Philistines were mustering at mismatch, and I said, now the Philistines will come down upon me at Gilgal, and I have not entreated the favor of the Lord. So I forced myself and offered the burnt offerings." And Samuel said to Saul, "You have done foolishly. You have not kept the commandments of the Lord your God, which he commanded you. The Lord would have established your kingdom over Israel forever, but now your kingdom will not continue. The Lord has sought out a man after his own heart, and the Lord has appointed him to be ruler over his people, because you have not kept what the Lord commanded you."
Awesome. This is the first time Saul messed up. Saul went out to battle. Saul went out against the enemies that were there. Like we're fighting our enemies, these demons and these devils and these cravings and desires and all this stuff. Amen?
Amen.
We're fighting all this stuff. You got to realize this was a physical war, but this was just how would you say it, a blueprint of what was going to happen in the spirit realm of the New Testament. And Saul went out to fight the enemy. Saul was like a pastor having church, and what happened was he began to compromise. His church began to compromise. People began leaving his church. People left him. He started seeing all the people because they said, the enemy's after us, the enemy's coming, and you know what, I can't deal. It's too hard being a Christian.
Yeah.
And they started slipping out, and some of them you didn't even see slip out.
Yeah.
You with me? Because you had your eyes closed praying at the altar. You didn't even know the back door.
Yeah.
All you heard. Back door. Front door. You see, where did so-and-so go? I don't know. All I heard was back door. They slipped out the side.
Yeah.
You with me? And you're like, where did they go? Where did they go? And he started freaking out because he's losing his church.
Yeah.
He's losing his people, and he realized we need every man we have to fight this battle.
Yeah, that's right.
Just like the pastors.
Yeah.
We need every one of you. Como que you didn't have time, or you couldn't make it, or this and that. We need you here.
Amen.
Huh?
Come on.
And what he started to do was get afraid.
Yeah.
You know what a lot of pastors do? They're so afraid they'll let the congregation lead the church. Whatever you want to do, you do it. You don't have to be faithful. You don't have to do nothing. You don't have to show up. You don't have to be at every service. You don't have to pray. You don't have to do nothing. Just come on. You want to preach? Here's the mic. You preach. Just don't leave my church. Man, I'll tell you what. I'd rather have a handful of faithful people and a bunch of empty chairs.
Yeah.
And be right with God.
Amen.
And right in the things of God.
Amen.
Than to have a big old 10,000 seat auditorium filled with people who, are you with me?
Yeah.
Their hearts are not there.
Yeah, that's
Saul was so scared. He was losing people. He didn't know what to do. He asked the prophet Samuel, come and pronounce the blessing so we can go after the enemy, because they would pray and they would offer sacrifices before they went to war. And what happened was Samuel told him, I'll be there, bro, 7 days, I'll be there. Because back then you didn't have trailways. Huh? You didn't have Ubers or city buses. You with me? That you walk, man, or donkey it. The donkeys don't move very fast.
No.
He told him, I'll be there in 7 days. And what happened was, you see, when God tells you he's going to do something, God is going to do something. Somebody said that. I don't know, Naomi or somebody said that. But if God said he's going to do it, he's going to do it. If God said 7 days, it's going to be 7 days. It might be 7 days and, 23 hours and 59 minutes.
Yeah.
And there you are, man. You're looking at that hands coming around to the 8th day. And you're like, oh my God. And sometimes God will do that just to test your heart, because he knows what's in you.
Right.
And when he was there 7 days, he's nervous. People are leaving his church or his congregation. And he says, you know what? I'm going to do it myself. Listen, listen, see if I can remember all this stuff. There was an anointed prophet, there was an anointed king, and there was an anointed priest. This was the hierarchy of the church, of the body of Christ. Prophet, that was the voice of God. The king, he ruled the people. You with me? And what else did I say? Prophet, king, and priest. The priest was the one that would offer the sacrifices to God. You with me? He wasn't a priest. He wasn't the prophet to offer those sacrifices. He was the king. Kings don't offer sacrifices. That's a no-no. That's not your job. How many know sometimes you need to just do your job and mind your business?
Right.
Sometimes we want to try and do the pastor's job or the sister's job or somebody at work's job. And, well, I did it because I didn't know it wasn't none of your business. Mind your business.
Yeah.
He got scared. He began to say, I don't know what to do. Bring me the heifers. Bring me the stuff and I'll offer it to God. And you know how it's funny? Is that the moment he was done offering these sacrifices, the moment he was done. You with me? Remember, God's talking about the heart and obedience. Sometimes we're doing stuff we have no business doing.
Yeah.
Sometimes we're saying stuff and acting out and doing things we have no business doing. We're not the pastor.
That's right.
You with me?
That's right.
And the moment he was done offering that sacrifice, here shows up the prophet of God. What are you doing? Huh? The moment he was done, and he did it himself. I don't need to go to prayer. I'll pray at home. You're still doing it yourself.
Yeah.
And you're still acting in disobedience to God.
Yeah, that's right.
I don't need to go to church. God knows my heart. I have church on the radio. You know, one of our old pastors that was years and years ago, we seen his wife one day at the Dillards. We were walking around Dillards, we seen her. And you know, this was the pastor's wife. This was a woman who worshiped, man, and she was amazing. And we were talking to her, and she told my wife, she says, yeah, we don't go to church no more. We're our pastors. What do you mean you don't go to church no more? I remember when you guys used to preach that the local church is the heart of God.
Yeah.
And she said, no, I don't go to church no more. I have church on the phone with my sister. I don't find that in the Bible. Show me the scripture that says you can have church at home on the phone with your sister.
Right, come on.
The Bible, the church is called the called out ones.
Yeah.
The ecclesia of God. Call you out of your homes to get over here and worship together with your brothers and sisters because they need you and God needs you there. Well, okay, you don't have to go to church to be a Christian. You're a Saul is what you are. Not you guys. Where's the camera at?
Right here.
You on YouTube. What do you mean you're not going to church over there on YouTube? What do do you mean God knows your heart? He knows it. Jeremiah 17:9, read it yourself. Your heart is deceitful and desperately wicked. Who can know it? And God will judge you for that.
Yeah.
You need to get your little Fanny to church.
Right. Amen.
Huh? Because you don't know, maybe they need your help.
Right.
Maybe there's a pastor and his wife out there discouraged that needs somebody like you to come and maybe help financially. Say, oh, man, here, man, let me bless the church.
Amen.
Let me help in whatever area, anything my hands find to do.
Amen.
What do you need? What do you want me to do? I'll do it.
Amen.
Huh? Because the church needs you.
Amen.
You with me? Don't get me started on
Come on.
the church.
Preach it, Pastor.
Hmm? And so anyway, Saul offered the offering, and the moment he was done, God told him, the prophet of God said, what have you done? You've acted wrong, Saul. You don't have no right offering this yourself. He said, today God is taking the kingdom from you. And God, as a matter of fact, is looking for somebody now. And this strong, massive man who was a warrior, who was a mighty man, who was handsome and tall and everything you ladies want. God said, I'm going to go find a young youth. Where's that young little youth? Not a big old strong man. Not this and that. I'm going to go find where's the man of God?
Oh, Jesus.
Sleeping.
That's him?
Oh,
That's what God did. He found David. David was a ruddy lad. He was red, freckles. He was out in the field tending his father's sheep. He loved those sheep because they were dad's sheep.
yeah.
I fought a bear and I fought a lion and ripped their face off because they tried messing with my daddy's sheep. God's looking for a heart, man, that's like that. Saul didn't have that heart. Saul was for the people. Okay, let's move on. 1 Samuel 15, verse 1. We're going to read here. 1 Samuel 15. First Samuel 15, verse 1 through, 1 through 23. Sister Cindy, would you read?
Amen. 1 Samuel 15:1. One day Samuel said to Saul, "It is the Lord who told me to anoint you as the king of his people, Israel. Now listen to this message from the Lord. This is what the Lord of heaven's armies has declared. I have decided to settle accounts with the nation of Amalek for opposing Israel when they came from Egypt. Now go and completely destroy the entire Amalek nation."
Okay, can I stop you right there for just 1 sec? Remember, let's just say Amalek represents the sin in your life. And God said, I want you to get rid of it all. I want you to get rid of sin in your life. I want you to destroy whatever you got to do to stop doing it, because that's what repentance means. I'm going towards sin and hell, and I changed my mind, and I want God, and I want heaven, and I'm going this way, and I am abandoning that sin. I'm abandoning those habits, and I'm abandoning my homies. Huh? And now I'm walking this way. God said completely destroy it, get rid of all that stuff in your life. It was called Amalek. Destroy everything, because even just one boy left may reproduce a whole generation of Amalekites again. So destroy everything, babies, sheep, everything. I want everything destroyed and devoured. So do you guys understand that? Everything means everything. Okay, go ahead and read.
So Saul mobilized his army of Kelama, there were 200,000 soldiers from Israel and 10,000 men from Judea. Then Saul and his army went to a town of the Amalekites, and they lay in wait in the valley. Saul sent this warning to the Canaanites: Move away from where the Amalekites live, or you will die with them. For you showed kindness to all the people of Israel when they came up from Egypt. So the Canaanites packed up and left. Then Saul slaughtered the Amalekites from Havilah all the way to Shur, east of Egypt. He captured Agag and the Amalek king, but completely destroyed everyone else. Saul and his men spared Agag's life and kept the best of the sheep, goats, the cattle, the fat calves, and the lambs, everything in fact that appealed to them. They destroyed only what was worthless or of poor quality. Then the Lord said to Samuel, I am sorry that I ever made Saul king, for he has not been loyal to me and has refused to obey my command. Samuel was so deeply moved when he heard this that he cried out to the Lord all night. Early the next morning, Samuel went to find Saul. Someone told him Saul went to the town of Carmel to set up a monument to himself. Then he went to Gilgal. When Samuel finally found him, Saul greeted him cheerfully. May the Lord bless you, he said. I have carried out the Lord's command. Then what is all the bleating of sheep and goats and the lowing of cattle I hear? Samuel demanded. It is true that the army spared the best of the goats, sheep, cattle, Saul admitted. But they are going to sacrifice them to the Lord our God. We have destroyed everything else. Then Samuel said to Saul, Stop. Listen to what the Lord told me last night. What did he tell you? Saul asked. And Samuel told him, Although you may think little of yourself, you are not the leader of the tribes of Israel. The Lord has anointed you king of Israel. And the Lord sent you on a mission and told you, Go and completely destroy the sinners of Amalekites until they are all dead. Why haven't you obeyed the Lord? Why did you rush for the plunder and do what was evil in the Lord's sight?
Watch what he says. Go ahead.
But I did obey the Lord, Saul said. I carried out the mission he gave me. I brought back King Agag, but I destroyed everyone else. Then my troops brought in the best of the sheep, goats, cattle, and plunder to sacrifice to the Lord your God in Gilgal. But Samuel replied, What is more pleasing to the Lord, your burnt offerings and sacrifices, or your obedience to his voice? Listen, obedience is better than sacrifice, and submission is better than offering the fat of rams. Rebellion is as sinful as witchcraft, and stubbornness as bad as worshiping idols. So because you have rejected the command of the Lord, he has rejected you as king.
Amen.
Amen.
That's heavy duty right there. That's a big old mouthful. Huh? Saul was a trip.
Yeah.
God told him, go destroy everything. And you know what he went in? He went and he spared the king.
Mm-hmm.
You know why he spared the king? Because back in those days, they would bring the king like a prized possession, almost like in a procession. How would you say it? A parade? And they would have the king humiliated, maybe naked, maybe chains in his face, maybe around his throat, maybe just like a dog. And Saul would come in and he'd have the king and he'd be like, check this out. And the king would be all jacked up, beat up. You with me?
Yeah.
And it made Saul look good in front of the people. They loved it and they cheered him on. And he brought the king, and you would think it's an honorable thing, but God never said. Did you read it?
Yeah.
Did he say spare the king?
No.
No.
Did he say spare the sheep and the cattle? What's all this moo?
No.
He said, I said kill everything.
That's right.
And you know what they even kept, ladies? Some of you, they would have kept. All the soldiers. They would have said, come on, baby doll, you come with me. The good-looking ones, we spared. The ugly ones, we just shot them. We killed them. Arrows.
Amen, brother.
So it would have been good to be beautiful back then. Because they would have spared you. But see, and you know what's funny is that it said that he went to the city. They said, where's Saul? I said, he went to Carmel to present, or like it said, to show a statue of him.
Yeah.
You with me? To honor himself in front of all the people. The prophet of God came in and he said, what have you done again? He said, what do you mean? I obeyed the Lord. This is where it gets tricky. The moment you start arguing, especially with your pastors, the moment you start arguing back and justifying your sin and justifying why you're feeling it and why you're acting the way you are, I'm telling you why you're close for God to tear the kingdom and you with me?
Right.
Yeah.
From you.
Yeah.
Because it is so heavy duty that this man turned and said, you know what, I did what God told me to do.
That's right.
And that was so wicked. That in itself, I don't know if you can understand how wicked that is.
Yeah.
How the prophet of God, who he loved and honored, you know, the prophet loved him so much. When God said, I've rejected Saul as king, the prophet, it said in mine, Cindy, that he got angry, but that he wept all night for Saul. He cried for Saul because he loved him so much. And he's like, how can he do this? Maybe there's people in your life, you say, how did they do that? Why did they leave? What did they end up doing that for? You guys don't understand what it's like to be a pastor.
Right.
Have people that you love and care for sincerely come into your ministry. You give your whole heart to them and your soul and everything you are. For them to turn to, we've had them flip us off in the parking lot as they're leaving. Here, Pastor Susan.
That's right.
FUB.
Yep. That's right.
There's nothing good that comes from them lives. Them lives are all jacked up today because you do not do that.
Right, right.
He said, do not touch my prophet. Do my prophets no harm.
Amen.
Because these are people that God picked from the fire and set in a place of authority. And when you come against that authority, you come against God Almighty.
Right, amen.
And I think the problem is that we as pastors, at least my part, we haven't preached this. We haven't taught this in so long. We've got new crops of people coming in who don't understand what it is to submit, what it is to obey. You with me? The importance of it. How can we, you go in any gang, bro. You go in some of these big gangs. I'm talking about Pueblo. I'm talking about New York. Latin kings, hierarchies, governments within the gangs. And the respect that these people have. They talk about unity and love and respect. In gangs, in church, you with me? And it's almost like, you know what I mean, we want to walk in beatings. We want to walk in fear. We want somebody that's going to punch us in the face and kick us and beat us half to death. So and then we'll respect them. But if we have somebody that's humble and gentle like Jesus was, and that loves us, we don't want that. Come on. Think about it, ladies. Who wants a guy that's got a job? You know what I mean? He's nice to you and treats you like a lady. Heck no. We want a dude with a Harley Davidson that beats us, cusses at us, slaps us around, but he's a hunk, tattoos, and he's just a thrill.
Right.
We want that. We don't want something that's going to bless us, something that's going to... You with me? We want the bad boy. Huh? Oh, my God.
Come on.
Just move on here.
Come on, you got single ladies in here.
He said, don't you know what he did? He went and got the sheep and the best of the cattle.
Yeah.
And you know what he said? It's for you, Lord. Huh? he took the sheep, God said, kill them, and brought a bunch of them, the fat ones.
Yeah. Yep.
Because the fat sheep are the better eating. And the cows and the good ones, he brought them with him. And then he had the audacity to say, the reason I did it was to offer it to you, Lord. In other words, the reason I robbed the bank and took the thousands and thousands of dollars was because we needed $2,400 for our floor. And, you know, it's for the Lord. I'm going to offer it to Jesus. Huh?
Come on.
I wish. Don't work that way, though. Huh? Ain't it a trip that he could? And then the prophet of God says, don't you understand, bro, that rebellion? He says, isn't it better to obey than sacrifice?
Yeah.
Huh?
Yep.
Obedience is better than sacrifice. I know we want to, well, I'll do this, well, I won't do this, but I'll do this for you, Pastor Susan. I didn't ask you to do this, I asked you to do this.
Yeah.
Well, I'm not going to do that, but I'll do this. You with me? And we don't understand, wait a minute, that's, you know, what's better? Your sacrifice, even if you gave more money than your obedience just to give your tithes? Huh?
Yeah.
He says, for rebellion is as the sin of witchcraft.
Yeah.
And we've studied that out. You guys that have been here for a while, you know that we've studied that out. And what it means is rebellion, for rebellion is the sin of, not is like,
Yeah.
it is the sin of witchcraft. And I've talked before, and I've talked about witchcraft in the church. And many people will look and they'll say, is there witches in our church? There is, but you just can't see them. Because you don't know which ones are rebellious. Come on.
Yeah.
And I'm not talking about women, just women either.
Yeah.
A witch can be male or female.
Right.
A rebel is male or female.
Right.
Yeah.
Preach it.
Huh?
Yeah.
That rebellion in your heart is as the sin of witchcraft.
Right.
And stubbornness is like you're worshiping an idol.
Yeah.
I like what it said that in Cindy's Bible, it said something about submission. That's a word you don't hear very often, huh?
Yeah.
Submit, brother. Sister, you need to learn to submit.
Yeah.
How many times have you ladies heard about Hagar? Was that her name?
Yeah.
Hagar,
Sarah.
Sarah's handmaiden,
Yeah.
Yes.
who took off all rebellious, acting stupid and crying, and the Lord found her over there in the middle of nowhere. And you know what? It affected her sons. Her sons were dying out there with her.
Yeah.
For her rebellion. God found her and he said, snap. What's wrong with you? He says, don't you know if you go back and submit? Don't you know if you go back and obey your handmaid, your master? Even if you think she's mean, even if you're the one that started it though, with your rubbing your pregnant pawns off.
Yeah.
Because she couldn't have babies, and now you despise her. And you're the one starting it over there, looking at her, laughing at her because she can't have babies. You started it, and she threw you out just to show you who's really in charge. And now you're out here in the middle of the desert, and you are dying, and your son is dying with you. And God says, don't you know you need to go back and submit to your mistress, to your maid, or whatever they call it, Sarah? Go back and submit to her. And because of your submission, because of your obedience, I will bless you. I will bless your son, and he will be a mighty nation too.
Amen.
And she did. She went back and she submitted. You with me? How many know submission is not a one-time thing?
Right.
You got to understand that tonight. Well, I did obey, yeah, but that was the last week. Today's a new day.
Yeah.
One day. And some of you need to get your name on that list. Naomi, don't even ask them. Put them on that list.
Where?
Put your name on that list. Say, what do you mean? You're all dressed up, dolled up, ready to come and hear the word. They're like, no, this is your turn. Get in there. You take your turn today in the sweat lodge. Your turn to clean the church this week. What?
Yeah.
Huh? I have plans Saturday. Yeah, your plans are to come to clean the church. Come on, somebody.
Wow.
I'm going to finish with this scripture here. Acts chapter 13, verse 21 and 22. Acts 13, 21 and 22. It says this, then the people begged for a king. Didn't we just read that? The people begged for a king. They didn't want God over them. He says, and God gave them. Sometimes God will give you what you ask for. That's why you better be careful what you pray for.
Yeah.
Well, I got to be careful. Well, I want a wife, Lord. I want a husband. Huh? I want a man, Lord Jesus. Just any man. Just a working man. And I don't mean physically working. I mean just work. I want somebody to hold me and somebody to cuddle with me. And I want to, come on. Get you a pillow. Big old body pillow.
Dog or cat?
Well, what did they say? What did one of the ladies say at the conference? She got her a dog.
Yeah.
Men, you need a dog, not a wife. Because when you come home, no matter what time of day, no matter how long you've been out, no matter what you've done, that dog's there. Jumping on you. He loves you, man. You're like, stop it. Your wife. Where you been?
Come on, preach it, Pastor.
You're like, why can't you react like the dog when I come home? Could you imagine me and your ladies in Saran wrap? Honey, I've been waiting for you all day long.
Oh, good Lord.
I'm all moist, sweaty,
Boy.
so glad to see you. Yeah, right. Where were we at? You guys get me going here, man. Acts chapter, what did I say? 13, 21 and 22. Then the people begged for a king, and God gave them Saul, son of Kish, a man of the tribe of Benjamin, who reigned for 40 years. So he didn't just 1 year, he wasn't, when it said that the kingdom was taken from him, it wasn't immediate. For years after that, remember David, man after God's own heart? He was a ruddy little lad. He picked him like him to come and to serve and to be the new anointed king. What Saul found out, and Saul hated David. He loved him at first, but then he realized this is the new anointed king, and I hated him, and he tried to kill him, literally searching for him like out here, you know how they run across the borders and the military and the border patrols chasing these Mexicans all over the desert, the Rio Grande and all that stuff. That's the way Saul chased David for years. David slept in caves. David slept in riverbanks. David was starving. David went to the enemy and pretended to be psycho, spitting and mocos and everything all over him so that they would take him in and feed him and help him. A man after God's own heart doesn't always have it so easy. And Saul chased him and pursued him to kill him until Saul was eventually killed himself. You with me? He was of the tribe of Benjamin, who reigned for 40 years. But God removed Saul, and he replaced him with David, a man about who God said. God testified of him. He says, I have found David, son of Jesse, a man after my own heart. Now watch this. He will do everything I want him to do. Can God say that about your testimony today? Come on, I know you guys share your stories and you tell people this and all the good stuff about you. Come on, that years and years and years and years and years and years and years ago, that God touched your heart. What about today, though? Come on.
Yeah.
Are you living in rebellion today? Are you the same person when you got saved? Are you with me? Is your heart still that sensitive like that? Are you willing to do anything? I remember when I got saved, I don't know about you. Me and my wife were willing to do anything, clean the church, man. I mean, usher. I was the usher. I seen the guy on Pastor Ray's YouTube. I don't know who the dude is. Actually, I do, but I don't know him by name. But he's standing there, and he's handsome, ladies. Standing there with the suit, and he's got a bow tie on. And I said, I used to dress like that as an usher. Everybody else, they just wear the shirt and jeans or whatever. You know what I mean? I dress with the tuxedo shirt, a tuxedo coat, some black pants, my bow tie, dark blue. Man, I was an usher, bro. I was so happy. I was like, man, this is an honor to stand here, to be a part of what God's doing in this church. I thought it was the greatest thing that I could help the Lord. We can clean our pastors. Man, I'm telling you what, we didn't let them take a chair. We didn't let them do the tables. We would be right there like some of you do. To say, you know what, I'm going to help. I'm going to serve. You with me? You got to have that kind of heart.
Amen.
You got to be that kind of person. You got to be willing to do whatever it takes. You with me? I'm not talking about sin. I'm not talking about doing wrong. I'm talking about doing right. Being willing and obedient. I was thinking about that today. What is it? First Isaiah 1:11. If you're willing and obedient, you will eat the good of the land. And I thought, I want to be obedient and I want to be willing, Lord, because I want to eat good. And he's not just talking about Golden Corral. He's talking about true blessings. I said he's talking about true blessings. He's talking about being blessed on every side, having a hedge of protection around your home, your children covered in the blood of Jesus Christ. Amen. Because your obedience and because of what you're doing in your life and the way you're living and your heart towards God, that God blesses you on every side. I don't know what you want in your life, but I'm telling you that's what a Christian should want.
That's right. Amen.
That's what a Christian should want.
That's right.
Amen. God's still looking for those after his own heart. Amen. That will just simply obey him. What a sad story. Saul's life ended up in battle. That they went after him to kill him. And Saul, he didn't want the enemy to kill him, so he falls on his own sword. And he's half dead. And the enemy comes up, and Amalekite, he says, Ito, come here. He says, kill me. Kill me so that these enemies won't kill me. And the little boy honored Saul, and he killed Saul because Saul asked him to. And that day, I don't know if you've ever seen the movie, but it shows his crown rolling down a hill. The crown of the king, he was dead. They went and told David, the kid that killed him, he went and told King David, hey, guess what? I know where Saul's at. He brought the crown. He said, Saul is dead. Your king is dead. Who killed him? How did it happen? He said, well, listen, he told him the story. He fell on his sword, and I came upon him, and he begged me, kill me. And he said, you killed him? And he had him slaughtered right there and then. And David mourned. He mourned for the man that made him run. Come on, some of you, man, you talk about, well, Pastor, he said this, and he got on us again, and I got rebuked. Come on. I preach messages like this, and some of you go away and say, you got rebuked, man. If the shoe fits, wear it, eh? We got rebuked. They told us off. Pastor said in prayer. And some of you go talking behind the backs. And what it's really showing is your heart of rebellion and disobedience. What it's showing is what's really inside of you and what you've allowed to come in. You with me? And I thank God that we're living in a time of grace where He'll give you opportunities and He'll give you messages like this so that you can come to the altar and bow your knees. When's the last time you even came and bowed at the altar? Honestly. That was the way we ended our altar calls when we were first saved. We come to the altars and we cry out to God. The brothers and sisters who were doing good and who were leaders or whatever, they'd come and kneel with us. And they'd cry for us. They'd pray for God, help them, Lord, to serve you. And we'd all be on our faces at the altar. When's the last time you've seen that? At least here. When's the last time you felt compelled to get on your knees? Say, God, forgive me. God, I'm sorry. When's the last time? Amen. Stand with me this morning, this evening.